Welcome to Lead with Linnea, where we talk about real leadership for real people in the real world. I'm Linnea Rader, and I've spent 2 decades in public service leadership, from accounting to my current role as the Director of Finance and Human Resources. I've seen pretty much everything: the spectacular successes, the painful failures, and everything in between that makes leadership both challenging and incredibly rewarding. Here's the thing. Leadership is not reserved for people with fancy titles or corner offices. Every single one of us can be a leader in our personal and professional lives. Whether you're managing a team of 50 or just trying to figure out how to navigate office politics, whether you're a frontline worker or sitting around a boardroom table, leadership skills matter. My approach? I skip the fluff and get straight to what really works. You won't find theoretical frameworks or feel-good platitudes here. Instead, you'll get practical, tested strategies from someone who's been in the trenches, made the mistakes, and learned the hard lessons so that you don't have to. Through Lead with Linnea, I provide leadership development training and coaching because I'm passionate about helping people discover their authentic leadership potential. And honestly, some days you need to laugh to keep from crying, and some days you just need someone to tell you the truth about what leadership really looks like. So whether you're listening while you commute, taking a walk, or just need someone to remind you that you've got this, I'm here for you. So let's dive in and talk about what it really takes to lead with authenticity, impact, and maybe a little bit of sanity. Ready? Let's go. What to measure as a leader? The leadership metrics that actually matter, and the ones that don't. Tracking the wrong leadership metrics? Here's how to measure what actually matters for team health and effectiveness, not just what's easy to count. So here's a confession. I'm a finance person. Numbers are my language. I love data, spreadsheets, metrics, all of it. I can get genuinely excited about a well-constructed dashboard. Yes, I know that makes me weird. I have made peace with it. But here's what I've learned after 2 decades in leadership. Most of the metrics we obsess over are measuring the wrong things. We track what's easy to measure instead of what actually matters. We create dashboards full of impressive-looking numbers that tell us almost nothing about whether we're actually succeeding as leaders. We convince ourselves that if we can quantify something, we must be managing it effectively. Spoiler alert, that is not how this works. The problem with traditional leadership metrics. Early in my career, I thought leadership success could be measured the same way financial success could, with clear, objective numbers that told you exactly where you stood. Projects completed on time? Check. Budget variance? Check. Service requests closed? Check. And you know what? All those numbers looked great, right up until the moment you realize that you and your team are miserable, burned out, and one difficult conversation away from half of your team updating their resumes. Here's what was actually going on. We were so worried about meeting the deadlines that we ran ourselves ragged to meet them. But the reality was that the deadline was a date pulled out of thin air, rather than one of necessity. Numbers said that we were succeeding. The reality said that we were burning people out for arbitrary targets. The dashboard said we were winning. The reality said otherwise. That's when it's time to start questioning everything you know about measuring leadership effectiveness. Because here's the thing about metrics. They're only as useful as what they actually tell you. And if they're not telling you the truth about your team's health, your organizational effectiveness, and your real impact, then you're just collecting data for the sake of collecting data. So when metrics create the wrong behavior, as a numbers person, I know something very crucial. Garbage in equals garbage out. It doesn't matter how sophisticated your analysis is if the data you're feeding it is flawed. And here's where most leadership metrics become garbage. When you focus on one specific outcome to the exclusion of everything else, you incentivize people to game the system to give you that number. I came upon a situation with our service request system. The measurement was how quickly the request is closed. An old supervisor would just close everything. They would make notes so that they could be addressed when they had time. So it looked like the situations were handled, even though they weren't. Residents would get notification that their concerns were fixed, even though they weren't. Residents would call in and check on the status, only to be told that they were complete. It created quite a mess, but it was motivated by only monitoring how quickly requests were closed, with no regard to the quality of the completion. I've seen this happen over and over. A leader decides on a metric, announces its priority, and then acts shocked when people find creative ways to make that number look good, regardless of whether the actual underlying issue is being addressed. The problem isn't the people. It's that you've created a system that rewards the appearance of success over actual success. What actually matters? The metrics you can't quantify. So, if traditional metrics are flawed, what should you be measuring instead? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The most important indicators of leadership effectiveness are often the hardest to quantify. They're the things you observe, the patterns you notice, the culture you feel when you walk through your workplace. The real health indicators for your team. Want to know what actually tells me my team is healthy and effective? It's not on any standard dashboard. I currently have an amazing team, probably the best that I've ever worked with. And I know this not because of their productivity metrics, although those are solid, but because of how they show up for each other. Recently, one of our team members had a serious medical situation come up with a family member. We pulled everyone together to strategize how to help both personally and professionally. What happened in that meeting was remarkable. There was a constant flow of, I can help with, and I'll do that, going around the table. The team was breaking down the person's job to help in any way that was needed. Any gap that arose was filled before any balls could be dropped. People were genuinely invested in making sure their colleague could focus on what mattered without work falling apart. That's the metric that matters. But how do you put that on a dashboard? Here's another indicator. When the entire team is in the office at the same time, there are smiles, laughter, and great stories being shared. Everyone knows each other and genuinely cares about how their day is going. Sometimes I actually have to remind everyone that we need to actually get back to work and get work done. And that's a problem I'm happy to have. The fact that everyone genuinely cares about everyone else, that makes for a strong team. That predicts success in ways that productivity metrics never could. So how to measure what actually matters? So how do you actually measure these things? How do you create a leadership dashboard that tells you what you actually need to know? Observe patterns over time, not just data points. Don't just look at individual numbers. Look at patterns over time. Are people consistently staying late or working weekends? That might look like dedication, but it might also be a red flag that workload distribution is broken, or that people feel they can't say no. Is there a pattern of sick days clustering around certain times, projects, or after interactions with specific people? That's telling me something important. Listen to what's not being said. In meetings, who speaks up and who stays silent? Has that changed recently? When you ask for feedback or input, do you get thoughtful responses? Or just people telling you what they think you want to hear? I once had a staff meeting where I asked for input on a new policy we'd implemented. Everyone nodded along and said it sounded fine. But something felt off about how nobody had anything to say. Initially, it was really easy to think that the policy must have been perfect and would have been easy to make work. But over time, nothing changed. What we were asking to have changed wasn't changing. So after a few months, I climbed in the truck with a few crew members and asked, what's the real story here? Turns out, people had serious concerns, but they didn't feel safe voicing them in the full group because they thought the decision had already been made, and we were just going through the motions of asking. That conversation changed how I approach new initiatives. Now, I gather insights as much as possible prior to the policy being drafted. I present it as what concerns we have or problems we need to solve, then ask for insights. If it's something there's no option to gather input ahead of time, I lean more into the why for the change rather than what it says. Track the informal networks. Pay attention to who people go to when they have questions or problems. If they're not coming to you, where are they going? That informal network tells you a lot about trust, expertise distribution, and how information really flows in your organization. Monitor the energy in your workplace. This sounds soft, but I'm serious. Pay attention to the energy in your workplace. Is there a buzz of engagement and purpose? Or does it feel like people are just doing the motions? Do people seem energized by challenges, or are they defeated by them? You can feel the difference when you walk into a space where people are invested versus a space where people have checked out. Trust that feeling. The metrics that bridge both worlds. Some metrics can actually be useful if you use them right. The key is making sure you're measuring things that genuinely reflect what you care about, and that you're not creating a perverse incentive in the process. Response time and resolution quality. Instead of just tracking how quickly service requests are closed, track both speed and whether the issue actually got resolved. Follow up with people to see if they're satisfied with the outcome, not just the timeline. This prevents the gaming I saw in our system where everything was marked complete, even when it wasn't. Training completion and application. Don't just measure whether people completed required training. Find ways to assess whether they're actually applying what they learned. Are behaviors changing? Are new skills showing up in their work? I've implemented this as a follow-up rather than an I gotcha moment. I ask how the new process is going, observe behaviors in action. By following up and observing, there's more dedication to the training itself because it's shown to matter. Budget performance with context. Yes, track your budget variance, but also track why variances are occurring. Coming in under budget because you found efficiencies is very different from coming in under budget because positions went unfilled or necessary work didn't get done. Your real leadership dashboard. Your real leadership dashboard should tell you, are people staying? Not just retention numbers, but why people are staying. Are they here because they love the work and the team, or because they haven't found something better yet? Are people growing? Are team members developing new skills, taking on new challenges, and expanding their capabilities? Or are they stuck doing the same things year after year? Are people helping each other? Is collaboration natural and frequent, or do people stay in their silos? Are people bringing problems forward? When issues arise, do people flag them early when they're still fixable, or do they hide the problems until they explode? Are people proud of the work? Do team members talk positively about what they do and who they work with, or do they complain and disengage? Are people speaking up honestly? Do you get real feedback and genuine concerns, or just what people think you want to hear? Does the team support each other? When someone needs help, does the team step up naturally, or does everyone stay focused only on their own work? None of these fit into a spreadsheet. All of them tell you more about your leadership effectiveness than most traditional metrics ever will. Making it practical. What to do this week. I'm not saying to throw out all your existing metrics. Budget tracking matters. Project timelines matter. Performance standards matter. But don't let those metrics become the only thing you're looking at. Don't let the ease of measuring something convince you it's the most important thing to measure. Instead, build a leadership practice that includes both quantitative and qualitative assessment. Look at your numbers, but also walk around and actually talk to people. Review your dashboards, but also pay attention to the patterns and energy you observe. The best leaders I know use data to inform their decisions, but they use wisdom and observation to understand what the data really mean. So your action plan. This week, take 30 minutes and honestly assess, what are you currently measuring? More importantly, what are you missing? Create your own informal dashboard of the things that actually matter. Write down the indicators that tell you your team is healthy, engaged, and effective. Then, start paying attention to those indicators with the same rigor you bring to your budget reports. Because at the end of the day, the metrics that actually matter are the ones that tell you whether you're building something sustainable, teams that are thriving, people who grow, and work that actually makes a difference. Everything else is just numbers on a screen. Need help measuring what actually matters as a leader? I help managers focus on the metrics that drive real team health and performance. You can click on the link in the blog to schedule a free coaching consultation. What metrics do you track that actually matter? What have you learned about measuring leadership effectiveness? Share those thoughts in the comments.
Thank you for joining me today on Lead with Linnea. I hope something we talked about resonates with you and gives you a tool you can actually use in your leadership journey. Remember, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional, authentic, and willing to keep learning and growing. You're going to face situations you never saw coming, make decisions that feel impossible, and sometimes wonder if you're cut out for this whole leadership thing. It's normal, it's human, and that's exactly why we need leaders like you who are willing to do the hard work. If today's episode sparked some ideas about training or coaching for you or your team, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at leadwithlinnea@leadwithlinnea.com or give me a call at 269-621-5282. Whether you're looking for one-on-one coaching, team training, or need someone to speak at your next event, let's talk about how we can help you and your people become the leaders your organization needs. You can find more resources, read my blog post, and learn more all about my services at leadwithlinnea.com. As always, carry social kindness with you everywhere you go. This world needs you and your positive mindset. Until next time, keep leading and keep growing.